Noisy Pixel.
Over the years, I've come to value level design in action-adventure games far more than I've had prior, and Blue Fire is a title that excels in that department. While the combat can feel cumbersome and a bit taxing at points, the masterful utilization of movement more than makes up for it. In Blue Fire, players traverse the desolate kingdom of Penumbra. The narrative is directly told to the players at a base level, but there is also just as much learning about it through explorative narrative and NPC plights. The degree of gaunt atmosphere present in the story scenes that made the overall situation come off as dire. The tone itself contrasts rather tastefully with the cutesy art style. Instead of the difference of tones between that and the setting being jarring, it amplifies the sense of unease the world evokes. The environments are visually lonely and sometimes downright depressing, but the addition of friendly NPCs and the approachable art style balances that, so it's never overwhelming. Combat is quite simple to understand, with there being dashing and lock-on options to make fights more controllable. There's also magic unlocked later on, alongside spirits that open up the combat in smaller avenues. Additionally, enemies drop shadow fragments used for trading for more mana at the save statues. Unfortunately though, the sometimes narrow passageways and questionable enemy placement made combat more than a bit irritating. That is not to say the game felt overly unfair, but the change in enemy design from area to area was somewhat jarring with the immense increase in damage and attack frequency. It was never a complete turnoff, as the combat is at least fundamentally enjoyable. Still, there were several areas where I almost grew to dread fighting due to these issues. There are sections called voids, where players must undergo a series of platforming challenges, which reward them with more maximum health. To be honest, the voids were where the game shined its brightest for me. Movement in Blue Fire is top-notch due to its perfect balance between looseness and stiffness. It never swayed too far in either direction, so navigation always felt comfortable. The voids demand varying levels of mastery over the movement, and the design throughout their durations is addicting to experience time and again. They also become moderately difficult, adding on the challenge of having to retry from the start after failing once makes them true tests of platforming capabilities. In all honesty, I would have loved if the team made the whole game dedicated to this style. The general areas and dungeons design are stellar, as they require intricate inspection for simple treasure chests and other goodies and basic progression. The world is organic and interconnected, with the movement options granted to the player, making it all a delightful playground. I was legitimately impressed by the secrets players could find. A rather curious addition that confused me a fair amount when it was initially introduced were emotes. There are these statues players can perform emotes from, with all express various forms and expressions, but they do in fact have a practical use. There are panels spread throughout various areas with certain emotes engraved on them, and performing said emotes on the proper panels will produce rewards. These were always a tad thrilling to come across, as they felt like appropriate rewards for paying attention to the world's layout and landmarks. There is also various shops selling tunics, spirits, and other such benefits. Currency is quite swift to garner from both enemies and sellable items. Amassing needed amounts rarely felt taxing when they were so painless to gather. The shops and side quests help make the world feel more fixed and less lifeless and disconnected. In regards to performance, Blue Fire was mostly adequate. There was rarely any graphical oddities or slowdowns, though they did crop up now and again. Unfortunately, at least in the build I played, it was impossible to remap controls in game. This is not a massive hindrance, as you can alter your control setup from the Steam proper, but it would have been a more convenient option in the game. At its core, Blue Fire is a title that boasts magnificent exploration and platforming majesty. It demands strict attention and skillful maneuvers from players to get the most out of this experience as possible. While combat can become vexatious alongside the present technical issues, this is still an extraordinary title that any adventure genre aficionado should check out. Noisy Pixel is giving Blue Fire an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.